Alright, people. Review of the week time. First review of the week in London. So, there you go. Let's talk about Beterbiev Bivol. That's primarily going to be what we're going to be. I would say it's going to dominate the majority of this 20-25 minute conversation we're going to have on here. Before we get into that, let's talk about the card as a whole. Now, BoxRec, funny enough, so officially on BoxRec here, there was a guy called Mohammed Alak, I think is how you say his name, who made his pro debut on the undercard. There was one other prelim card at about 5 o'clock. A guy made his pro debut, and both guys, there's not much to say about them. Both guys won unanimous decisions over 4 rounds. Not a great deal to talk about there. Sky Nicholson beat Raven Chapman on points. There you go. Eddie Hearn finally has a win over Queensberry. There you go. Well done to him. We get into the main part now, which is Ben Whittaker versus Liam Cameron. Now, this fight right here, I thought this was going to be a step up for Ben Whittaker, and I thought maybe now that they've stepped up, maybe he'll look a bit better. Because you got to remember, he turned pro at the start of his career with Sugar Hill Stewart. He left him, and in his last 2 subsequent fights, he hasn't looked particularly good. He hasn't set the world alight, to say the least, anyway. Now, in this fight here against Liam Cameron, Liam Cameron, for my money, was winning this fight. He was winning this fight for my money. He was landing the eye-catching shots. He was hitting. Ben Whittaker wasn't showboating as much, excuse me, because he knew he couldn't get away with it in this fight. Liam Cameron was very game. He was very live. 6 losses, but none of them by stoppage. He's been in there with guys like Luke Blackledge, lost his last fight to Lyndon Artur on a split decision. So he's been operating at the domestic level scene. So it's fair to say that that's his level that he's at. No disrespect to Liam Cameron, but that's his level. He's now with Ben Whittaker. Ben Whittaker is being touted as, someone who's going to fight Chris Eubank Jr. potentially, someone who's, keeping an eye on the scenes at light heavyweight because he's being built up. And I've said it about Ben Whittaker. I think he's talented, but there's a lot of mistakes there. The punching power is certainly, look, it's not the be all and end all, but if you are struggling to keep these guys off you, and especially if you're fighting in a style that relies a lot on reflexes, having punching power is a big thing. I would always say it's not the be all and end all, but if a style that you're fighting with kind of relies, because it does rely, like that style of, of moving, moving with the punches, moving back, it does kind of rely on you having punching power. That's why Josh Kelly, I always say, when you get someone who's going to put pressure on him like Gavin Easton, he's going to fold pretty quickly, because what's he going to keep these guys off with? Nothing. And I think a lot of similarities are being drawn between Josh Kelly and Ben Whittaker. Now, I think Ben Whittaker, certainly going into this fight, I said I think his ceiling is probably higher than Josh Kelly's, but having seen this fight, I don't know. And you definitely can question the heart of Ben Whittaker. At the end of the day, right, I wasn't there ringside. I didn't see how hard his foot hit. It looked like his foot hit the side of the ring, because obviously they both took a tumble over the ropes towards the back end of the round. And Ben Whittaker complained that, he couldn't walk. He was wheeled out in a wheelchair. And for me, although it was very difficult to see from the angles they showed, if anything happened, it didn't look that serious. Could he have maybe banged it off the ring apron and maybe it was hurt or something like that? Yeah, but as bad as they made it out that he needed to be physically wheeled out of the arena in a wheelchair, look, I'm not there. I wasn't there with Ben Whittaker. I don't know what he felt, but it didn't look that bad from what I could see. Now, if that is the case and he used that as an opt-out, he escapes with a draw. He's very lucky to even escape with that, because a lot of people would have had Liam Cameron ahead going into the 5th round, I myself included. He's very lucky to get a draw. It will feel like a loss. His stock has taken a dip in the last couple of fights. It is going to come shooting down after this. It really, really will. And that's going to have a lot of people in question Ben Whittaker's heart. That the minute, and it wasn't like he was taking a beating or anything in there. He was getting hit a lot, but he wasn't taking a beating or anything like that. And to just instantly look for an opt-out after that to me is, there's people saying Whittaker was exposed in that fight. And to be honest with you, I could definitely make the case for it. Now, not in sequential order, these fights are. Jay Opetaia fought Jack Massey. I said Jack Massey would do better than Elizaro and Jordan Thompson, and he did, but Jay Opetaia looked lethal in there. He literally got Jay Opetaia looking the best he could have looked. I felt bad for Jack Massey because I know Jack Massey is a solid European level heavyweight. And bear in mind, he's been in there with Richard Riakporhe, didn't get stopped by him. Went up to heavyweight and fought Lawrence Okolie. Didn't fight Lawrence Okolie. He fought Joseph Parker at heavyweight. That was on the undercard of, I think that was on the undercard of Eubank Liam Smith 1. Went in there against Joseph Parker. Parker looked awful, to be fair. He genuinely looked awful, but never looked in a spot of bother. Did Jack Massey, went the distance, no questions asked. Lost the fight, yeah, clearly. It was over the 10 rounds, I think. But, yeah, no hint of being hurt. Joe Gallagher, correct decision, throwing the towel in when he did. I've sometimes criticised Joe Gallagher. I've criticised him a lot. And there are times when some of his fighters are clearly taking a pace and they're clearly taking a beating, and he just will not chuck that towel in. On this occasion, he finally got it right. Spot on stoppage. He was never going to win this fight. He was getting hard to watch, really. He was taking a serious beating in there against Jai Opetaia. I'd like to see Jai Opetaia unify with the winner of Zurdo versus Smith, CBS. They're fighting next month, so look, Jai Opetaia is there. He's the man in the division as far as I'm concerned. Chris Eubank Jr., Camille Sarametin. You know, it doesn't bode well when you're hearing the commentators say that Sarametin was contemplating retirement going into this fight. So doesn't exactly fill you with a lot of optimism this is going to be a good fight, and or certainly that he's going to give that much, and he didn't. He was dropped in the first round, he was dropped in the sixth round, he was dropped twice in the seventh round. I think all of his stoppage losses have been in around that round. Yeah, stopped in the 6th against Munguia, 7th against Triple G. So those kind of rounds 7 to 6. Not good rounds for Kareem Sarametin. It was a clockwork-like performance by Chris Eubank Jr. Some people were saying they didn't feel he looked 100%, you know, maybe struggling a little bit at the weight. He's been at middleweight now. Well, he hasn't been at middleweight his whole career. He had that brief kind of 2 years, roughly. I think, yeah, it was about roughly 2 years where he operated at 168 pounds. Before moving back down to 160. Could argue, yeah, he's maybe outgrown the weight now, but we'll have to wait and see what he decides to do. Picked up the IBO title for what it's worth. The main kind of thing now is obviously Conor Benn. Conor Benn was ringside. They had a face-to-face. Obviously Conor Benn and him at the weigh-in, all that. They're trying to do Conor Benn versus Chris Eubank Jr. Now, I will say this. Chris Eubank Jr., Conor Benn 2 years ago, which was right about this time 2 years ago. Was I interested in the fight? Yeah, I'm not going to lie, I was. I wasn't at the start, and then I kind of got into it, and I was like, yeah, this might be good. So 2 years ago, yeah, cool, no problem, 2 years ago. 2 years later, I want to see Eubank at 35 challenge for world titles. I think that it's time he does that. I think that the middleweight division is not the strongest. Conor Benn, I don't even know when is he allowed to fight. What's going on? We're hearing absolutely nothing with Conor Benn. He's still playing the victim, which is just completely ridiculous, as I've said several times. You know, that's like failing a breathalyzer. When you've had a sip of alcohol and then being like, well, I don't know how that, they're all out to get me. It's like, mate, explain why you failed that test. Oh, well, you know, well, this crowd said it was this. Well, I don't think it was, but if that's what they say, it's true. It's like, mate, you're not helping yourself. So Conor Benn, not doing himself any favours, but at the end of the day, it's not doing himself any favours in terms of ingratiating himself to the fans, but people are going to tune in whenever he fights next just to watch him lose. That's what's going to happen. He hasn't looked great in his last 2 performances, Conor Benn. He's been talked about going back down to welterweight. Look, if they do the fight, I will watch, but I mean, like, I think that had its moment 2 years ago. That had its moment 2 years ago where enough people cared. I don't think they do now. But that is the situation with Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn. Fabio Wardley underwent successful surgery to repair his jaw and cheekbone. All right, and that is stemming from his first round knockout defeat to Fabio Wardley. I said it at the time. I said it in the video I did today. I'm saying it now. I thought Wardley would win. I thought it would go rounds. I thought it'd be better. First round knockout, never in a million years. Couldn't believe it. Never in a million years did I think that would end the first round. It shocked me. It really did. And it was the matter of it. You know, once Wardley hurt Fraser Clark like that, just went through those gears, the hand speed, the ferociousness of him. You know, someone said that he'd only had a couple of white collar fights. They'd love to see who he was fighting, and to be honest, I would as well, because as I said, white collar is very much. I mean, if you see footage of white collar fights, you'll see a lot of swinging. You'll see 2 novices having a boxing match. That's basically what you'll see. two novices swinging for the fences, and that's all. You won't really learn anything. You won't look at someone in a white collar fight and think, yeah, he's got potential. You just see two people swinging. And he's gone from a white collar background to beating an Olympian. That's just, that's what you say. Like, if someone says, do you need a extended amateur career? I would say no. I'll say you don't. It helps. It's like having an apprenticeship, you know, but at the end of the day, if you have a bit of talent, if you're in the right environment in terms of the pro gyms, if you're matched the right way and, you know, you're not kind of pimped out as an away fighter, as some people are, then yeah, you know, you could, or even if you are, if you have ample notice and you know, right, I've got the talent, you can make something. And Wardley was never an away fighter, although you could argue maybe he was going in there the first time around against Fraser Clark. But Wardley, he's just been managed very well. I don't know, is he still part of the Dylan White stable? You know, I've said this once, I'll say it again. White's not got the best eye for talent when you look at the stable of fighters who he's taken on. But he struck gold with Wardley. Now, I still think that there's flaws there, but he's making a believer out of me fight by fight by fight. He really, truly is. So, you know, credit to Fabio Wardley. Big improvement. I'm glad to hear Fraser Clark is okay. That, I say okay, you know, I mean, a fractured jaw, wasn't it? It was repair of jaw and cheekbone. Damn. Well, he'll be out of action for a while with that. And, you know, a loss like that, especially because he's in his early to mid 30s now, isn't he? So, yeah, that could spell the end for him in reality. Get to the main event, Artur Beterbiev, Dmitry Bivol. Now, this is the main talking point. Now, Dmitry Bivol's manager has said they're going to file an official protest over the 116-112 scorecard. However, Dmitry Bivol himself went to Instagram today and said, thanks everyone who supported me and worried about me. I accept the result and move on. He accepts the result and moves on. Bivol is a great guy. He absolutely is. He's a great ambassador for the sport of boxing. He's a tremendous talent. I felt watching the fight live, he'd done enough to win it. I felt watching it the next day that, yeah, you could definitely have it either way. A draw would have been very fair. A win to Beterbiev is fair. A win to Bivol would have been fair. This is a genuinely close fight. When you watch it in the moment, and again, sometimes you can be swayed by what the commentators are saying. When you're noticing one fighter doing something, it's not really being called, and then they're calling stuff for the other fighter. It's making you believe, oh wow, yeah, like am I missing something here? Okay, maybe it is going more this guy's round. Beterbiev, Beterbiev had the much bigger output of punches. I mean, there's no ifs or buts. He had the much bigger output, but Bivol was sharper. He threw less, but they were more eye-catching. In that type of fight, it really is what you prefer. And that's why you have a fight like that. That's razor close. It really could have went either way. I don't have an issue with Beterbiev getting the decision. And upon reflection, I really don't have much of an issue with the 116-112 scorecard, to be honest with you. You can make a case for that. Eddie Hearn, Frank Warren, they are all upset, obviously, with Eddie Hearn. That's another world champion gone from his stable. You know, I mean, like, it's not looking... I mean, how many world champions does he have? How many world champions does Eddie Hearn have? Because Bivol is gone. Obviously, he has Jesse Bam Rodriguez. Like, he does have world champions in that stable. One of them, I think he's got plenty of them. But that's another loss. It's another loss. And look, Bivol can come again. Beterbiev, he's pushing 40, but he's number one. He's the guy. Would I like to see this rematch? Absolutely. I would love to see this rematch because I done a live and, you know, people were asking me a few questions in it. What do you think about this? What do you think about this? I think that both guys can improve, to be honest with you. I think that both guys can improve. I think that Bivol definitely can be a little bit more aggressive, although saying that, I do think he was a bit worried about Beterbiev, the counters and stuff like that. With Beterbiev, he apparently had surgery on his knee. So how 100% really was he? Was he going into this fight all guns blazing? Probably not. So if you give him a little bit more time, he'll need a bit of time to recover from this fight. It was a tough fight physically and mentally. Could he be better next time around? I really hope they do a rematch. I think this fight was fantastic. It was just such a high level chess game without it being boring. I mean, like, this was just a brilliant fight. It was everything we thought it would be. I was so happy with it. It was fantastic. So I was really, really happy with this fight. I see Naoya Inoue's brother. He lost over in Japan today. Kenshiro, obviously. Kenshiro, I should call him Kenshiro. Kenshiro stopped Christoph Rosales. He takes some stopping, doesn't he? I think Charlie Edwards, I think, fought him. He stopped Paddy Barnes in Belfast a couple of years ago. Canelo was actually in attendance at that fight. It seems as though Canelo and Naoya Inoue, there's rumours that they may share a card, obviously not with one another, obviously, but they may share a card with each other fighting, possibly in Japan, possibly in the States in the near future. They're two examples of fighters who, if Turki Al-Sheikh is trying to negotiate, if he's trying to work with them, he's probably going to have a harder time with them than he would other fighters, because Canelo and Inoue, in their respective countries, Mexico and America, and obviously in Japan, they are mega names. They can make the same money that I'm sure the Saudis can offer by just fighting in America or Mexico or Japan. So with that, it becomes, well, why should we go anywhere else? Why should we, go to Saudi Arabia? Why should you dictate what I'm going to do, where I'm going to do it, when I'm the one who does that? So those two, I mean, that could be interesting. Could they start working together on something moving forward? Let's wait and see. Turki Al-Sheikh has declared that he wants to make the rematch. Of course he wants to make the rematch. We all want to see the rematch. I really want to see the rematch. I thought it was flipping epic. It was an epic fight. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And yeah, man, I think that that fight deserves a rematch. I was talking to Live about maybe having a trilogy, but at the end of the day, someone correctly pointed out Beterbiev probably doesn't have the time in his career left to do a trilogy, which is a very, very good point, it has to be said. Eddie Hearn has stated that he remains in talks for a rematch of Queensberry versus Matchroom 5v5 early 2025. Could see Daniel Dubois versus Anthony Joshua in February on that. So that could be Matchroom versus Queensberry, headlined by probably the two team captains, Joshua and Dubois. They seem keen on doing the Joshua rematch, and you could probably say it probably is the only route to go down for Anthony Joshua when you think about it, because, I mean, it's a big payday. You won't probably get as much money as you did the first time around, because it's definitely Dubois who's the A side this time, but it is a big payday nevertheless. I mean, I don't know how you win it. I'd struggle to see Joshua winning that rematch for the simple reason he took a shellacking first time around. He's 35 years old now. In fact, I think today might be his birthday, the 13th. He took a shellacking, he took a beating. I don't know how you're going to be better next time around. And given the fact that February's not that far away, yeah. I don't think that's going to go well for Anthony Joshua if it happens again. In terms of another 5v5, well, I thought the 5v5 concept, although I thought it would be more competitive than it was, I thought it worked particularly well. I enjoyed it. I did. I enjoyed the whole show. We saw some good fights. I thought it worked well, but who do you do this time around? Like, what way do you do it? All right, you've Joshua Dubois, that's one. All right, what's the next one? Lee Wood, apparently he's a free agent, so I would have said you could possibly do Kache versus Lee Wood. Apparently he's a free agent, so if he joins with Eddie Hearn, well, there you go, happy days. But if he doesn't, what happens? So we can maybe have a kind of question mark on that one. You look and you just think, well, what else could you do? Yarde is now fighting with Boxer. And speaking of Anthony Yarde, I only watched a little bit of it, and the reason why I didn't really want to watch this interview or take too much from it is Yarde basically gave his first interview since he was announced that he'll be fighting on the Boxer show on the Copper Box this coming Saturday. He gave it on Stamina for Sale, where if you don't know, Stamina for Sale is Tunde Ajayi and Spencer Fearon's YouTube channel. I'll just say that again. So he gave his first interview, not with IFL, not with Box Nation, not with Boxing News. He gave it with his manager and his manager's friend's YouTube channel. So you can imagine that was going to be, no hard questions. It was going to be, you may as well have not watched it at all, because there's going to be, you're being interviewed by the guy who's telling you what to do, essentially. So, I mean, that's just, that is what that is. I think Anthony Yarde has, I don't want to say, well, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, he's a big boy. He's the guy who could make the final decision, and he's allowed people in his team to, I don't want to say give him, well, yeah, bad advice. Because again, as I say, he could have been fighting on some of these Saudi shows. He could have been making life-changing sums of money. Instead, he's fighting his old mate to be confirmed at the Copper Box this coming Saturday. And Joshua Buatsi fought at Wembley Stadium. And Willie Hutchinson fought in Saudi Arabia as part of Matchroom Queensberry and got himself a couple of mil. And you are fighting at the Copper Box yet again, at the Copper Box. It's not you saying it's a homecoming. You fought there in February. It's not like you've been on the road travelling or something like that, going to other fights. You fought there in February, mate. Literally, you fought in the Copper Box in flipping February against some unknown. Was he Latvian or something like that? And now you're fighting TBA again. And there you go. And you're in your mid-30s. And you're letting someone who, I always say, if Tunde is as good as he makes himself out to be, or he bigs himself up and says it, where are all the fighters lining up to train with Tunde? Where are all the fighters wanting to sign a managerial deal with Tunde? Where are all the promoters wanting to work with Tunde? Well, they ain't there. I wonder why. Oh, Jesus Christ, yeah, they're all wrong. Of course, they're all wrong. That's it. The reason why I get animated is because I like Anthony. I think he's a good guy. I think that he is someone who has been given bad advice. He's had bad matchmaking in his career, in a sense of it's one or the other with Anthony Yarde. With Lyndon Artur being the exception, it's one or the other. It's either right in at elite world level or right down to not even prospect phase. I mean, even prospects fight some better journeymen than these guys. Anthony Yarde's been a pro for over a decade. He can't even drop down to a level that you could say, okay, that's decent. It's either there or there. And somehow he thinks that he's a bigger star than whoever, that he can go and just pimp himself out to any network and they'll pay him the same kind of money he'd get on some of these Saudi shows, while your promoter, who's had you since the pretty much get-go, makes the biggest deal of his career with the Saudis. You decide then to have a dispute. That is just mental. Like, honestly, I mean, you can't even make that you-know-what up when you hear about it and thought, you're just like, that actually happened. So if Yarde doesn't do anything in his career, he's only got himself to blame. I said it in 2020 when he lost to Lyndon Artur. This is now your time. Change things up. You're still young enough. You can still do something, but change it up now at the time. Well, he didn't. So you make your bed, you lie in it. Simple as that. That's what I got to say on that one. I think that's pretty much it. I did see, now I talked about that briefly on Midweek Report, that Loma is contemplating retirement. It's mad. All the fighters of this kind of era, or this generation really, the last 10 years, so to speak, we're starting to see them wind down. Talk about retirement and stuff like that. So Loma, I mean, watch the space with him. Apart from everything else, I will leave it there. I think we've gone on for, a reasonable amount of time on here. Let me know your thoughts. I will be previewing, obviously I'll definitely have to preview it. I'll be previewing O'Hara Davis versus Adam Azim. As much as I might critique Anthony Yarde for being on there against TBA, I still think that the card looks somewhat okay. I think the main event is very, very good. Adam Azim versus O'Hara Davis. If Davis has anything left in the tank, that could really be interesting because he can really punch. And we've never seen Adam Azim in there with anyone who can even, tickle him with a shot, much less hurt him. So that's really going to be interesting. It's really going to be an interesting fight. So I'm looking forward to that. We'll do some videos previewing that during the week. In terms of everything else, first week in London, how has it been? Yeah, it's been different. It's been interesting. Still settling in. I'm work from home, so it's fun like that. I still get to kind of talk to some workmates from back home, even if it is over Teams and stuff like that. So that's nice. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'm looking forward to December and getting home for a couple of weeks. I'll put it like that. I'm looking forward. I can already just think about things I want to do when I get home. So I'm already looking forward. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, that I'm literally here and I'm already like, when can I go home? And maybe look, we'll see. But we're here now for the time being. Hopefully we can do some stuff this week and make this week a good week. That's what I say, make this week a good week. Let's hope we can make this week a good week. For now, I'll leave it there. Hope you enjoyed the video. People, smash the like button if you could. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. Peace.